Hello, I'm Rob Clemente, Chief Executive of 10 The Education Network. Hugh Smith, a Senior Associate at Chamberlains in Canberra, joins us in this edition of Law Bites. Hugh, can you give us some examples of unusual unfair contract terms that you've come across recently?
Yes, Rob, absolutely. Thank you for the question. A number of interesting examples of unfair contract terms I've come across recently is in the case of Meloto Group, which is 2019 FCA 1257. Now, this case involved Meloto Group, who, as I understand it, is the biggest seller of potatoes in Australia. They sell potatoes, they grow potatoes, they also pay people to grow potatoes. So the unfair contract term related to Meloto and some of their growers. And Meloto said, look, you can grow our potatoes in one of the terms, but you can't sell the potatoes without our consent. Another term was, we don't have to accept your potatoes, even if we don't consent to you selling them. Another term was, we can vary this contract whenever we want at our own discretion, and there's nothing you can do about it. The final term, which I found very interesting and the court was very critical of in the greater context of this entire case, was that the growers that Meloto contracted with were unable to sell their land unless the purchaser of that land entered into the same contract as Meloto had with the growers. So the reality was that these growers were stuck in these contracts indefinitely. They could be changed at any time. They were making losses because they couldn't sell their potatoes if Meloto didn't want to buy them. And they couldn't sell their land without the consent of Meloto, and no one in their right mind would enter into these contracts knowing everything that was going on at the end of the day when they did their due diligence on this land. So in the end, the ACCC, after some back and forth, took Meloto to court. And in fairness to Meloto, they ultimately agreed that the contract was unfair. And as a result, the terms of the contract, those terms in particular, were set aside amongst some other ones. So those are some very interesting unfair terms that I've come across recently. It's a very interesting case.
Hugh, thank you very much. That was very interesting. And I think one of the interesting things about it was the interaction of different terms when put together made the contract absolutely impossible from the point of view of a grower if Meloto decided to give them a hard time. Very interesting. Hugh's presenting a live webinar on unfair contract terms on the 5th of September, which will be available later as a recorded webinar, and speaking on the same subject at an upcoming online conference in October. So if you wish to register for either of these events, just go to our website, tved.net.au. In the meantime, thank you very much for listening.